Welcome to FreightWaves. Today, it is Monday, and it's another great week. This is July 4th, holiday week. Headed into the holiday, this is the fireworks of the freight market. This is the Super Bowl. Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
How excited are you for the July 4th?
Oh, I'm super excited.
Is America back?
Oh, America's never left, baby.
Yeah, right. We do feel like we're back. We're winning the World Cup storyline. We may not win the games. We hope we will.
Yeah.
But we're definitely winning the storyline. There's a lot of enthusiasm about Americana. And of course, if you're in freight, things are great. Trucking spot rates, I'll talk about it later today, on the daily, hit an all-time high.
Yes.
We know the White House is paying attention.
Absolutely.
We know that the FMCSA is paying attention.
Absolutely.
We hope that you're paying attention because things have never been brighter in freight. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We have a great show. We have Steve Lockington. He's the president and CEO of Geotab Vitality. He's going to talk about driver safety. We have Burak Cendek, the managing director of AutoTech Ventures. We're going to talk about early stage venture startup world.
Nice.
Always good to hear from the venture capitalists because they see things before they're at a bleeding edge. Literally, they are bleeding because these things are burning cash. But he'll give us some insights. We have Michael Farkas, the founder and CEO of Next NRG, to talk about energy infrastructure and the AI world, remote fueling. Got a lot of really great things on the energy because we've seen relative collapse in oil prices since Iran and America decided to do a ceasefire. Short term, maybe. There's a little bit of like.
I'd say so. It's like, hey, just kidding, push pull.
Of the first Gulf War, and how old are you?
I'm 32 as of August.
I'm not allowed to ask.
No, it's okay. You
anyway.
can. We're close.
32.
32, yeah.
Yeah, and did you remember Gulf War I and that period between, you might have been too young to remember Gulf War I, between when Saddam Hussein was still in power, between the two wars, and every now and then he would get into a skirmish with the United States?
So my father served out actually during that time.
Okay.
So that's a
Thank
fun
you,
thing.
Father, for your service.
Of course.
He did good work because we kicked some butt over there in Iraq.
He's a good guy.
We went back for round two.
For round two.
But it does feel that way. But we're going to talk about all sorts of things, including oil prices. And then, of course, we're going to finish up with Gabe Ribeiro. He's the head of partnerships and marketing at Hey Bubba.
Nice.
By the way, one of the best trucking company names out there.
Oh, 100%.
Can't forget it.
Can't.
But let's hear about the news.
We kick things off with a massive cargo theft recovery near Chicago that reveals just how organized freight crime has become. The Cook County Sheriff's Office recovered 2 stolen trailers containing more than $1.3 million in cargo after locating them at a truck yard in unincorporated Elk Grove Township. Investigators first received information on June 18th that a trailer carrying approximately $300,000 worth of copper wire was transmitting a location near the 2500 block of East Higgins Road. That trailer had been reported stolen in Pine Hill, Alabama. When authorities arrived, they found the copper wire still inside, but the trailer was displaying Indiana license plates that had previously been reported stolen in Wisconsin. During the investigation, the truck yard owner revealed that the same individual who delivered that trailer had also dropped off another one the previous week, which turned out to contain approximately $1 million worth of infrastructure equipment for data centers and had been reported stolen in Jacksonville, Florida on June 10th. Investigators are now working to identify the driver who delivered the trailers as well as anyone else involved in the thefts, though no arrests have been announced yet. Over in the air cargo sector, China Southern Airlines is making a landmark move that signals a major thaw in trade relations. The state-owned carrier has placed an order with Boeing to buy 7 freighter aircraft, including 5 units of the all-new 777-8s, which is expected to hit the market in 2028. This represents the first known purchase of the 777-8 freighter by a mainland China carrier and the first orders in years of Boeing products from China, after a prolonged period of trade tensions with the United States. China reopened its market to Boeing during a May visit by President Donald Trump to Beijing, promising to buy 200 Boeing aircraft. China Southern also ordered 2 conventional 777 cargo jets and secured options to buy 3 additional 777-8s, with a list price for the 7 aircraft coming in at $3.6 billion, though the airline expects to pay less after commercial discounts. The deal is particularly significant as Boeing has fallen behind Airbus in the race for large next-generation freighters, with Airbus registering 103 orders for the A350F from 14 customers compared to Boeing's roughly 70 orders for the 777-8. Finally, a biometric privacy lawsuit against a Universal Logistics subsidiary has just expanded into a potentially costly class action. A lawsuit filed in 2021 by Illinois truck driver Brandon Willis for Universal Intermodal Services over the company's use of a fingerprint scanner at its Harvey, Illinois facility has been granted class status by Judge Elaine E. Bucklow. The lawsuit alleges that the defendants violated Illinois' Biometric Privacy Act, which requires entities gathering biometric information to inform that person in writing and receive a written release regarding collection and retention of the biometric data. By granting the wider definition of the class, Judge Bucklow brought in a group of people who will be more than 50% of the now larger number of plaintiffs, as most of the workers who had their fingerprints scanned worked either for a Universal Logistics subsidiary called Lank or a third-party staffing agency. The Illinois biometric law has long been considered the most stringent in the country and has been the focus of other trucking-related litigation, including a case against in-cab video company Lytx that resulted in payouts to thousands of drivers of between about $650 and $850 per person.
Malcolm, fraud stories. I think we had two major ones over the
Yes, we
last
did.
couple of days. We had this one that was in Illinois. We had one where there's organized crime up in Pennsylvania. These stories are going to keep popping up.
They are literally not. What's the saying? A dime a dozen. I mean, this seems to be
But they're
happening.
over $1 million. I think the one on that was in Pennsylvania was organized crime, $500,000. This one was like $1.5 million. Of basically theft. These are huge issues.
Now, can I ask you, because I get a lot of pushback on What the Truck from folks that comment, and they're just like, well, 90% of all the freight that delivers, I mean, we don't hear about any of the good things because they're just routine.
Yeah.
Whereas at 10%, you're going to hear about these stories. You guys are just trying to enact fear into the industry. What do you have to say to that?
Like, if it bleeds, it leads. That's the rule.
Say that one more time.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Thank you.
That's the rule in media. I mean, look, you're right. We should talk about and highlight the things
Right.
that are good, and our industry does an enormous amount of great things.
100%.
But there's also things that we have to have conversations about. We do celebrate the industry. Right. We have been celebrating the work that truck drivers do. We've been advocating for them here at FreightWaves. And we have been celebrating the efforts of our industry to create innovation. But really, the truth is that people, unfortunately, the people, give the people what they want. They want to hear about these really captivating stories. And these are important stories as it relates to educating the public and the industry about just all this pervasive theft problem that continues to plague our industry.
I believe so too. I mean, and it's not synonymous with just like the regular mom and pops. You know, there's so many different
There's organized
players.
crime, and we have to have an honest conversation about it. And if we don't, it's just like the old, when we talk about the compliance crackdown, is the vast majority of drivers are completely in compliance. They do amazing work. Right. But there's also been for years, the industry's pretended that we were not dealing with, we didn't have compliance problems. We didn't have safety problems. We didn't have security problems. And we ignored that as an industry. And when we ignored it as an industry, we didn't get change. And one of the things that we have the opportunity to do is bring about awareness, education, and evangelize for a better industry. We should expect that.
Yes, and because I think that being the evangelist is only going to improve where we're at
That's
today.
right. If we can have an honest conversation about the safety issues and the security issues and frankly the economic issues. Like, I don't think anyone's a bigger champion of better economics in this industry than we are at FreightWaves.
I agree.
We want better economics. We want everybody from the truck drivers that do the hard work to get paid more. We want the carriers to make more. We want everybody to do better, and we want to provide better services to shippers that deserve it. And look, this industry relies upon. I mean, if you bought it, a truck brought it. Yeah. We all have diesel in our blood.
We do indeed. We do indeed.
Speaking of diesel in our blood, let's go to our first guest. Steve Lockington, the president and CEO of Geotab Vitality. Steve, we're talking about safety. It's something that you are heavily involved in. This is a joint venture between Geotab and Vitality. I'd love to hear about what you guys are doing to improve the safety of our industry.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Craig and Malcolm. Appreciate you guys having me on the show. And I didn't get the notice about wearing a sport coat today, so apologies, guys.
This is, we're trying to upscale our, this is an industry that definitely the old school.
The
My
old
dad's
school.
days, everyone wore suits and ties. We're bringing that back because it's cool. But dude, you're great. You look more like you're in the industry. Your hands dirty. You have coal face, they like to
100%.
say.
It was
So that's okay.
fantastic. dude.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on the show. And yeah, I think Geotab Vitality has a unique perspective. At least we think so, and we're trying to bring it to the industry. We are trying to combine behavioral science and telematics, which the telematics piece is probably quite core to most of the folks who are watching today. But the behavioral science piece might sound a little soft and fuzzy. But we want to solve the driver behavior gap, right? We want to help where fleets are asking drivers to do all kinds of things and they don't always do it. And so we're bringing a very modern, very scientific approach to help drivers want to do the things that fleets are looking for today, which and safety is where we've got our start.
I mean, Geotab is a name that is well known if you've been in technology around freight and around the fleet operations. Maybe not a household name, because a lot of what you guys or what Geotab does is sort of private labeled telematics and ELD devices, but it is a business that has as large of an install base as any company that's in logistics and in trucking specifically. I am curious, what is the goal here? You talked about really mining the data to improve behavior. But how are you guys actually affecting that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer is to kind of walk you through how it works. So we take the data from core telematics devices like a Geotab Go device, and so we're already capturing this information, and fleets and fleet managers are receiving it today. They get to look at it typically historically, right? So they're looking at dashboards or safety scorecards. They're then thinking about how do I take action on this risk to make sure that in the future there's less of this that can happen. And what we're trying to do is shift that to the proactive, right? So it's carrot versus the stick. We're trying to get the data into the hands of drivers up front in a way that is very positive, right? We're not just moving the stick further up in the process, but we are using behavioral science by giving them personalized goals, insights into their own performance so that they understand what it is that they need to work on. We use different mechanisms like feedback loops and incentives to start to change their mindset, to get them to start thinking about every time they get in the cab, thinking about safety and wanting to drive safer versus 30 to 60 days getting called into a fleet manager's office and saying, hey, we got to talk about your speeding and you've got to do better. Those are two very different equations. They actually work hand in hand though. And we can start, if we can shift things proactively to the driver and they start to then improve their safety, you get fewer issues showing up on the scorecard, right? And less severity as well as what we've been able to prove.
So Steve, we talk about behavioral science as a term that may not mean as much to our individual viewer in terms of understanding exactly what that means. Can you describe behavioral science as you guys think of it?
Sure. I mean, behavioral science is really just how we think about how people behave and then also how to shift and change it. And so maybe a simple way is to describe the product. So Geotab Vitality, we're taking that data from the Geotab device or a telematics device. We're providing it to a driver on a weekly basis, right? Well, daily basis. And so we're giving them personalized scores and metrics that are really simple for them to understand. And each week as a driver, you get a personalized goal for safety, right? So mine is 480 points because everyone in Geotab, we all use the product. We believe really strongly in it. And also we want our employees to be safe. So my goal is 480 points this week. Drivers can get up to 100 points per day for safe driving. Think, less speeding, less harsh acceleration, harsh braking, et cetera. And every day I can see my performance, right? Every day I can see how I'm doing. I know how much time is left. I know what I need to work on. And we have this nice, ring that shows them as they start to close that ring through the week, like a Apple Watch for exercise, for example. And if the driver achieves their goal, then we reward them with credits that they can spend in the app with local partners like Amazon and Starbucks, Home Depot, Walmart, Ticketmaster, you name it. And so the behavioral science technique there is positive reinforcement, right? We asked them to do something. We said, can you drive safely? When they do it, we reward them. That starts to change people's behavior. And over the course of time, if we continue, it builds habits. So we use a whole bunch of different methods. So positive reinforcement is one, gamification. You can also think of personalized insights, right? Giving them information that actually reflects their experience on the road. We also help with feedback loops, right? So we're providing them information about what's happened so that they can take action today. Those are just a few. There's a lot of techniques involved. It's not just about gamification. You can gamify anything. Behavioral science is much more broad.
Now, Steve, your pilot data is showing results in as little as 30 days, which is pretty drastic. What's driving this change this fast based off of what you just explained from the driver perspective?
Sure. It's actually happening faster than that. We have the benefit of being a software product, right? So there's no hardware to deploy. It's fully integrated into the Geotab ecosystem. So versus a camera or something like that, where you got to order it, ship it, install it. We can be turned on as quickly as today. We usually recommend about a week for fleets because we want to help them communicate to their drivers and get them ready for what's coming. But the results from our pilots and customer engagement is typically about 2 weeks. So drivers get really excited about the program. They're finally hearing, hey, we recognize the hard work that you do every day. We want to reward you for it. And so we see strong engagement in the first 2 weeks. Typically, we see that start to level out around day 30 to day 60. And then that habit formation, along with how we engage drivers through the app to keep them coming back and keep participating, all of that's in the background. But that starts to get drivers to think about it every time they get behind the wheel. And it really starts to change behavior and keeps it consistent. I know it has for me. I'll give you just a quick story. So in my neighborhood, and I appreciate for everybody else who's in the US, I'm in Canada, the speed limit is 30 kilometers per hour. So it's very slow. And I want to make sure I get my points. I want to make sure I get my credits every week, even though it's a small amount. It's in my head, and I actually put the cruise control on as I drive around my neighborhood because I know if I'm not paying attention, I'm actually going to end up going over the speed limit just way too easily.
Safe driving. I absolutely love that. I need to slow down on the wheel as well here in Chattanooga. I want to follow up with this because you ran pilots across multiple areas, right? The US, Canada, and the UK. Now, did the results, did they differ by market? And if so, could you get into it? And then also, what did this tell you specifically about each market?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. We're available globally now. So Canada, the US, the UK. We're also in South Africa, in New Zealand, Australia, Mexico. The results by market didn't differ very much, but they did by fleet type. And so that's been really interesting for us. So we've seen very different results when you look at like a last mile delivery fleet or a ride hailing fleet or a field services, technicians going out to service a property or a building, versus, let's say, long haul trucking or distribution fleets. And the reason behind that is you have very different types of drivers, very different types of vehicles, and very different driving styles. And so Geotab's done an incredible job of building a model that allows us to understand the risk and the actual driving experience all the way down to the individual driver, so that we're not comparing a Class 8 vehicle to a Sprinter van or a passenger vehicle. We're not comparing, last mile delivery, which is very local, lots of traffic, lots of stops, to long haul trucking. Right? We need to make sure we get that experience. The driver has to feel like what they're seeing in their scores relates to their experience on the road. And so for trucking fleets that are typically already fairly safe, we're seeing strong improvements still in collisions and downtime, but even stronger improvements around things like fuel savings, right? Because the vehicles are so big and so heavy and they use so much fuel that safe driving is also very efficient driving. And so we've seen up to a 6% improvement in fuel economy, which is critically important right now. We've also seen big improvements around driver retention, right? Because I can't tell you how many drivers I've heard come and say, like, the only time I talk to my fleet manager is when I'm in trouble. I had one long haul driver talk to me. He said, I've been working for 25 years. I've had a perfect record, never had an accident. No one's ever rewarded me for that until now, right? So just that shift, right, of showing your drivers that you recognize their hard work, that you are rewarding them for what they're doing, can make big impacts well beyond beyond safety. And so that we're not seeing differences by market, but we are seeing very big differences in those ROI profiles by type of fleet.
Steve, before I started FreightWaves, I actually worked in the employee engagement and rewards incentive business. Short stint away from freight, came back to the freight industry. This feels very similar to that, where you're giving points that are then transferred to some type of non-cash prize, could be gift cards, but could be something else. One of the pushbacks I had selling these points programs was that people just want hard cash. And the counter argument was, why not just give me money versus giving me these points that I then have to go transfer? What is your answer to that when you're talking to a driver who's going to ultimately earn these points?
Yeah, I mean, I think effectively we're doing more than just rewards, right? And that's where the behavioral science, the gamification, the other components come in. But what we've tried to do is we have 160 different partners, and they're all localized. So you can think differences in Canada, right? Tim Hortons up here, and Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks in the US, right? So for drivers, that means a couple things. It's almost equivalent to cash in that sense. So you can go out and you can get your groceries at Walmart if you want. You can buy something off Amazon, have it arrive tomorrow. I get coffee every week because I've got twin 7-year-old boys, and so I need every advantage I can get. But that's the whole trick, right? Is we're giving drivers choice. What incentivizes me might be different from what incentivizes you. And what incentivizes you today might be different from next week, right? Today, maybe you want groceries. Next week, maybe you've got a DIY project. You're building a fence at home and you need a new tool. Or maybe the following week you want to get tickets to an NBA playoff or a sporting event, right? You want to go see the local football or NASCAR. All of that's available through the app. So the choice component, I think, coming back to your question, is what's most important.
One of the things we discovered was that because the people had earned the points, they didn't have to tell their spouse. It was kind of like their little nest egg on the side. So maybe the Tim Hortons donut, which, by the way, talking about Tim Hortons donuts or just Tim Hortons is making me hungry.
Oh my gosh.
Those are amazing donuts. Have you ever had one?
No, I have.
Dude, I'm a big donut connoisseur. That's something. I have twins that I have twin girls that are 5. They certainly would love some donuts. They're kind of obsessed with donuts. When we think about what is happening around freight, we opened this segment when we Malcolm asked the question about, we highlight the bad things in the media, but not necessarily the good things. Strikes me as you're providing incentives, rewards to reward behavior. What is you talked about the fact that there's substantial successes that fleets see. Is it just is the scoring, is it the competitive nature of it that's really driving the behavioral change?
I think it's the engagement. I mean, and the ability for drivers to really see that the scoring that they're looking at, it fits their experience, right? It's not just some number that is arbitrary, right? It actually aligns to their experience. They can see in the app, where they, won and lost points, on a different trip. So it's all very relatable. What we've heard from drivers is, and some of them have said it's actually helped them to be a safer driver. And some of these are, long haul trucking drivers who've been doing this for 25 years, and they're starting to say, I didn't realize that I needed to not accelerate as much, off the line. I didn't realize that I was braking harshly, but now that I can see it, I can actually make changes on it. And the nice thing is I can be rewarded for it. So I think it's those pieces. I think there's also the psychological aspect of, like, it's tough being a driver these days, no matter what type of fleet you operate in. There's more traffic. There's higher expectations. There's more technology that feels like it's watching us all the time, waiting for us to make a mistake. And so having something come at it the other way and say, actually, we're going to help you be better and we're going to reward you when you are, that that's a big shift. And we see it with drivers saying that they feel differently about the fleet that they work with because they've implemented a program like this. We've also heard from fleet managers that it's changed the actual relationship with the drivers, right? Where instead of coaching feeling like it's a friction point, coaching is much more of a positive conversation, and in some cases they're seeing drivers come to them and ask for coaching because they want to get more rewards. So I think it's more broad than just the behavioral science component. It's psychological. It's a bit of shift for our industry and how we work with the drivers, and there's macro features on top of it. With it's getting harder and harder these days to be a driver.
Yeah, Michael, have you ever met someone who says they're a good driver who is not a good
And is
driver?
a super bad driver.
Like, I know some people, not naming them, that have been, say they're good drivers and they're not great drivers. You know, it just does strike me. One of the things that Steve talked about is the sort of Apple Watch, the health stuff. I wear a Garmin watch, which, you know, it's interesting how much more, and I have an Aura ring, by the way.
Nice.
So my
I
wedding
need to
ring
get
is an
one.
Aura ring.
I need to get one.
Dude, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is by the way, they're two different devices that do two different things. Aura does a much better job on sleep, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Garmin actually does a much better job on fitness. Are you actually doing things around health, or is it just specific behavior inside the vehicle?
Yeah, so two quick things. So just going to your comment on people who think that they're good drivers. We all think we're good drivers, right?
It's something we do every
80% of
day.
people-
We're pretty experienced at it. Doesn't make us good.
Well, especially if we do it for a living, right? So 80% of people, when surveyed, will say that they are a good driver, and the data shows that actually only 1 in 3, from a safety perspective, show up in that good to great category. So there's this huge cognitive disconnect, and that's important in fleet, right? When we're thinking about these coaching conversations we have, drivers walk away saying, "This is my job. This is what I do. Kind of, leave me alone. I'm really good at this." Or maybe I don't need to change as much as you're saying. But coming back to the question around health, so Vitality, which these folks probably don't know as much about them. They're based in South Africa. They got started as a health and life insurance company 34 years ago, and their regulations changed, and they were no longer allowed to price based on risk. So it didn't matter how sick or healthy the individual was; they had to provide the same price. And so they made a decision to change not how they priced, but if they couldn't change that, they were going to change their customer. They were going to help them to be healthier. And then they were going to share some of that value with them. So they are actually one of the biggest purchasers of Apple Watches because they give Apple Watches to all of their health and life insurance customers around the world. And so they expanded from there, right? So Vitality went from health and life to then also consumer driving, which is where we took that program. We augmented it for fleet with Geotab. And they also help with wealth management and banking. All of it's underpinned by this behavior change program to help people make better, smarter, healthier, safer decisions every single day. And we are looking at that. We are absolutely looking at how we can try to apply that to fleet. And there's a huge need for it, right? I mean, there's Project 61 out there that tells us drivers are not always the healthiest folks. And we know that a healthy driver is a safer driver. We have the data that proves that. So how can we help our drivers to show up every day and be their best, and also to reduce downtime by making sure there's fewer sick days, fewer injuries, illness, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, long answer, but yeah, that's absolutely something we want to help with.
No, I mean, it's important. The driver health is absolutely something that has been top of mind. We've been thinking about it, increasing our coverage around these health topics. Like I said, I'm a big tracker. I use the Garmin watch and now the Oura Ring. The new Oura Ring that just came out a few weeks ago. It's pretty amazing. So much data out there. Steve, we'd love to have you back. I've got a big question when we'll come back. Not today, but I really want to talk about tracking. This is something that gets a lot of controversy among driver population. I don't want one more device to track me, but I got to leave it there because we're going to commercial. We'll be right back. Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for coming.
It's National Safety Month, which makes this a great time to ask how your fleet can prevent more accidents. Samsara AI detects risks in real time, giving teams more visibility into what's happening on the road and more context to coach drivers before risky moments become incidents. Fleets using Samsara Complete AI Safety Solution have reduced crash rates by nearly 75%. See the data behind the results in the Samsara Safety Report at samsara.com/freightwaves.
Race car drivers like NASCAR champion Jesse Love are a lot like commercial drivers, pros. But even the best in the world still watch the tape to see what they missed and get better next time. So we created the Samsara Driving Coach.
Great race, Jesse, but you were following too closely and you were speeding.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Samsara uses insights from millions of professional drivers to coach drivers in real time.
Because even champions need a coach.
Give me the keys.
What's the masterclass all about? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're a driver, you're an owner-operator, you're a fleet owner, whether you're in compliance services, dispatcher, no matter what it is, masterclass is for you. Every 2 weeks, you're going to sit down with me, and we're going to go over certain business topics that are related specifically to your small trucking company operations. We're going to help you with everything from compliance to how to negotiate better on the spot board, how to find direct freight, and everything in between. This is the reason why you don't want to miss out on Masterclass. It's about an hour to an hour and a half, and then on top of that, you'll have the library to you so that way you can always research and reflect back onto it. Don't miss out this opportunity. This is built specifically for you. I'm excited, and I hope to see you in class.
Imagine a world where your freight moves as fast as a digital pulse. What if your visibility didn't just tell you where a truck was, but exactly where it needed to be 48 hours from now? Think of a logistics network that corrects its own mistakes before they cost you a single dime. What if your supply chain could think for itself? Imagine AI agents negotiating rates in milliseconds, predictive models that solve labor shortages before they even happen. This isn't science fiction, it's the agenda. On July 15th at the historic Old Post Office in Chicago, FreightWaves presents the Supply Chain AI Symposium. We are defining in real time how AI is embedded into every mile, every warehouse, and every handshake. Because in 2026, the future isn't just coming, it's already negotiating. The FreightWaves Supply Chain AI Symposium. Secure your spot now.
All right, and welcome back to FreightWaves Today. Craig, a great first segment. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
right?
it was good. It was fun hearing about the things that see positive elements for drivers, positive behavior. We're highlighting the things that people are doing that's good.
Absolutely.
Not just no stuff that bleeds. That's not it. Speaking of bleeding, this market is not, it depends on your perspective. If you're trying to find capacity, is what you're going to be bleeding.
Yes.
But if you're not, you're making money.
Yes, you are making money.
There's a lot of fireworks.
There's a lot of fireworks, which we're going to get to here in a moment. Let's hear from what you had to say earlier about the Sonar Deep Dive.
We are now at an all-time high in trucking spot rates at $386 a mile. That's the daily print. That's yesterday. The last peak was $383 a mile. We are 3 cents higher. And this will probably be the lowest number of the entire week. This is July 4th week. This is the busiest, most volatile week of the year in terms of market activity. We see tightening that always happens as drivers take off for July 4th, as well as we will see companies trying to push out their product to really get it into their last minute shipments, into production facilities, into warehouses, into stores before the holiday weekend. It's a really important thing to watch because it tells us a lot about where the market is trending. Now, we are hitting record spot rates despite fuel prices coming down significantly. Over the last month, retail fuel prices have dropped by about 78 cents a gallon. but wholesale fuel prices have dropped over $1.50 a gallon. And it's really important to know that wholesale moves a lot faster than retail pump prices do. And that's because the truck stops tend to be very slow to drop prices when we have a declining market, but very fast to increase prices when rates are going up or prices are going up. But on wholesale, it reacts to the New York Mercantile Exchange contract, and it's priced accordingly to that, so it tends to move much quicker. That's exactly what the data is telling us. So retail diesel prices should come down, continue to come down. There's no reason they will go up from here. They've dropped about 10 cents a mile, and yet trucking spot rates are at all-time highs. It's really an important fact that these two numbers are disintermediated. Just because you get high fuel prices does not mean you'll get high trucking spot prices. And just because you see declining fuel prices does not mean that trucking spot rates will decline. And we're seeing that play out right now. It's all about what the clearing price in the market is and what the supply and demand metrics look like. And right now we're seeing very tight supply. Tender rejections are near cycle highs and should continue to go up over the next couple of days and into the weekend and probably into next week. We should see continued increase in tender rejections. And we will see spot rates reflect that, despite what fuel's doing. This is a great environment for motor carriers because they're getting cheaper fuel prices, having to pay cheaper fuel prices at the pump, but yet benefiting from higher spot rates. A really solid cash flow environment. And it does tell us a lot about what to expect in the second half. Second half, we're going to see more retail imports come in that will drive the freight market. We're already seeing it in our import bookings data. We're going to see perhaps more industrial production ramp up as we see a lot of the things that we've been teasing over the last couple of months. And so really, the expectation is that things will continue to get stronger and stronger and tighter and tighter. Refrigerated markets are also incredibly tight. Tender rejections are at 27%, which is really a cycle high. It's something we haven't seen since COVID. And that is being reflected in major markets across the United States. Now, when we look at the map, this is the Hall map. Again, go to blue markets because blue markets are good. That's where there's more freight outbound than there is trucks inbound. The market looks largely the same. If you've been watching over the last couple of days, you'll notice that this map really isn't changing much. One point that I'd point out is that Northern California did get a little softer. It did revert to red where it was previously blue. Again, blue markets are good. The blue to blue is where you should go. If you want more freight, go to the blue markets. Avoid those red markets. You can find this data inside of the Sonar app. If you don't have Sonar, Core Sonar, you can get the Blue to Blue app, which is in the iOS store. It really provides this data on a mobile device. You can also get the rate plugin, the Quick Rates plugin, or the Market Monitor if you're an executive. And frankly, every executive across the space should have at least Market Monitor because that tells us what's happening in the market and gives you a macro perspective that you can see what exactly conditions look like. This is a really important fact to know what's happening. We're going to continue to watch this data over the next couple of days. I do expect we'll see continuing tightening. I do expect we'll see spot rates. We're going to see all-time highs and records hit. We should get over. My expectation is that we'll be over $4 a mile by the end of the holiday. So this time next week, we will see $4 a mile. That's my expectation. We also potentially could get greater than 20% tender rejections, which would be absolutely fireworks for the freight market.
Fireworks for the freight market. Did you do that? Did you do that on purpose?
Look, it's July 4th. We're festive. Got American flags all around.
I love it. I love it. Now, I guess my question, well, I have two.
What's fireworks? I mean, look, fireworks are fun. That's when things are going off. They're also pretty volatile. A lot of volatility.
You're cooking today. This is the Super Bowl. You're saying this. This is the Super Bowl this weekend.
Right.
This is Super Bowl.
Every year the Super Bowl happens, and every year July 4th is the tightest market in terms of increase. Now, you could argue Christmas gets a little tighter.
Yeah.
But every single year, even in the off years, we do see tender rejections go up a couple percent.
For sure.
Because they this is when the market tightens.
Historically, we've seen these trends happen. To your point, what do you suggest that history is going to teach us that if you're in a brokerage right now, that you should be paying attention to?
Well, like brokers are definitely going to have a lot of spot opportunities.
Yeah.
Because really, you're having to pay up for capacity. To get capacity in the market, you just have to pay up because that's the only way you're going to get trucks. And I think brokers know this. They're seasoned veterans. You were recruiting for brokers. You know how this works. This is when they make a lot of money. They make, it's interesting because brokers will participate in contract freight. They may make $50, $100 in these high volume. It sort of keeps the lights on as the rule of thumb. But around these big holiday peaks and surges is when they make a lot of money because they're able to charge the high rips. This is where their big rips come in. This is where at the end of the day, at the end of the month, like as we get onto Thursday, late night Thursday, and these shippers have got to move freight and they want it off their docks for, some of this is just seasonal. They want it for end of the month. They want to get it off their docks. They want to have it. Maybe they have a delivery appointment they have to hit either before the holiday or after the holiday, and they're not going to be open next week. They will want to move the freight and they'll pay regardless of whatever it takes. And this is where I've made a lot of money. When I was doing on-demand freight, we were ripping it wide open because this is right at the time of the holiday. People pay for whatever the market will bear.
It's end of quarter as well. Not a lot of people think about that too.
This is like if you've ever heard the term triple witching, which is a Wall Street term. It's like when you have the futures contracts sort of come together, the options contracts come together. This is sort of the same idea as you have end of the month, end of the quarter, holiday. It's a consistent holiday. The fact that it's a Tuesday, which is July 4th, is a end of the week element. Sorry, my days are confused. The fact that it's end of the week does mean it's going to bookend stronger as we get in past middle of the week. So Wednesday is when I think you'll start seeing rates absolutely go hyperbolic.
Now, you said with this map that we located, and you guys can pull this up if you want to, but there is not really much. I mean, you said the blue is good. That was an overarching
that's blue to blue.
thing.
So if you're a motor carrier, and look, brokers can use this map as well because it tells them where. So blue represents more loads going out of a market, and red represents more trucks into a market than there are loads. So we have an expression called blue to blue, and it came from the idea that if you're a motor carrier, you want to maximize the potential, the opportunities, the batting average is in your favor if you go to blue markets. If you go to red markets, chances are, because those are more trucks than there are loads.
More truck saturated.
It's saturated with trucks. Chances are you're going to have to deadhead. I mean, let's pull this map up again because I want to point out a couple things. Southern Florida, central and southern Florida, that's red. And then look, anyone who's been around trucking knows that if you're going to Florida, chances are you're deadheading to Atlanta. In this case, Savannah looks like the next sort of load point. Dallas, Fort Worth, same thing. You're sort of east I-35. It looks like eastern Texas, that around sort of Texarkana. I mean, Texarkana is one example, but Tyler and like Shreveport.
Yes.
You're able to find some loads there. Southern California, there's some more freight out there. So maximize the opportunities by going to the blue markets and avoid those red markets. Otherwise, you're probably going to be deadheaded or sitting potentially to find freight.
Is there any drastic changes? I mean, you talked about it a little bit in your update. California was something that kind of
Northern California last week, and this is the van map. We have one for refrigerated too, but that van map last week, that Northern California, that's the Stockton area. Okay. That's the area where there's a lot of produce. People may not realize this, but California is the leading agricultural state. Like it is. People talk about the bread basket, that's all wheat. But if you think about California from an agricultural export, it's the top farming state in the country. It is the epicenter of a lot of produce. And that all comes from Northern California. A lot of it does. And so what we saw last week was it flipped where it was blue for a hot minute on the van market because refrigerated and van, you can take a reefer truck and put it in the van, but you can't do the other. You can't take a van freight and put it in the reefer. But it was blue. It has turned red, which probably means you're deadheading to Southern California.
Awesome. Some great stuff from you and a great update nonetheless.
Yeah, it's always a great update when Sonar is involved. And look, July 4th, it's a holiday week. And so it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be banging.
It's going to be banging indeed.
Well, let's hear from Highways. We talked a lot about fraud today. They have some words they'd like to share with us on how you can mitigate fraud.
A Philadelphia man is headed to federal prison for nearly 8 years after his crew stole more than $1.5 million in freight, including frozen snow crab legs, Samsung televisions, and newly minted U.S. dimes straight off of a Philadelphia Mint trailer. According to U.S. Attorney's Office, for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the crew targeted sleeping drivers in unattended trailers, coordinating through group chats and selling stolen goods through local contacts. Meanwhile, the Cook County Sheriff's Office recovered more than $1.3 million in stolen cargo at a truck yard in suburban Chicago. 2 trailers reported stolen in Alabama and Florida turned up at the same location. One carried $300,000 in copper wire, the other about $1 million in data center equipment. No arrests have been announced. The investigation is ongoing. The FBI is warning carriers, brokers, and shippers cargo theft is evolving and it's not slowing down. That's your verified fraud check. Thanks to our sponsor at Highway.
Every day there is a fraud story, and these numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just, you ever see the show American Greed?
Of course.
Like on CNBC, the American Greed show, where it's usually white collar crime.
Yeah.
It's usually some kind of scam. Maybe there's some theft. A lot of times it's white collar crime. But it strikes me that there is just so many of these stories that are happening around our industry, and that's why we have to talk about them, because A, they're very interesting.
Yes.
By the way, people love true crime.
Oh.
It's like, it is, the people want it. We give them what they want.
I want to give a shout out to Adam Wingfield, of course, who just is now in his new role with our writers. He's gamifying the way that we look at our writers and what the performance is. And Phil Brink is leading the leaderboard this week
because he's got all these criminal stories.
Crazy stories. Today we covered, it was a $500,000 heist of bourbon out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, we had the bourbon story. We had this one in Chicago that's also a Phil Brink story. And look, I think the people are interested and intrigued by these crime stories because we all know they're happening. And I think, you know, you talk to people that are outside the industry, they do not realize how pervasive the criminal problem is.
I didn't realize how big this was until we were in Cleveland for at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It is absolutely getting bigger and
FBI
bigger.
speaking and just being candid and being like, listen, we don't even know how big this is.
Well, a lot of crimes, I think the number was something like anywhere from 3 to 1 to 7 to 1 is the number I've heard of unreported crimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of folks don't report when they have a claim. So their freight gets stolen, they don't report it, therefore it doesn't go to insurance. They either pay the claim out of pocket or negotiate that claim out of pocket. Yep. And a lot of times it doesn't get reported. And oftentimes it's the stuff, I mean, bourbon is we'll call it a sexier story because it's bourbon, and maybe some people fantasize about like, hey, I could end up with a truckload of bourbon. But those stories are the sexier ones. A lot of the times it's things like avocados or sort of lower cost goods, a truckload of bottled water. I mean, is that a sexy story? No, but you're making out with $50,000 to $100,000 of water, and that stuff is incredibly easy to fence.
Sure.
And the internet has made this so easy.
Yeah.
Like that's part of the problem is you're combining, I mean, you've seen these smash and grab things in big cities.
All the time.
And they're, you watch these people go into the Apple store and they try to disconnect
and they're just like,
those devices will never work outside the Apple store.
Ever.
But you hijack a truckload of freight or you commit a fraud, you're probably walking away with $50, $100 million plus dollars. And oftentimes it's hard to catch the criminals. And one of the biggest complaints is, when you contact the authorities, they may not care. The local authorities may not do anything about it.
No way.
It's perhaps a civil crime. That's the problem with a lot of the sophistication, particularly around the double brokering theft and sort of what they call strategic crime. A lot of times it's viewed as a civil matter by local law enforcement. It's only when the FBI gets involved, if you can get them involved, before they take these matters seriously. And the problem is because they happen oftentimes with overseas coordination of criminal syndicates that are overseas, the FBI, the process and the time just takes forever. We'll be right back after these messages.
Race car drivers like NASCAR champion Jesse Love are a lot like commercial drivers, pros. But even the best in the world still watch the tape to see what they missed and get better next time. So we created the Samsara driving coach.
Great race, Jesse, but you were following too closely and you were speeding.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Samsara uses insights from millions of professional drivers to coach drivers in real time.
Because even champions need a coach.
Give me the keys.
The super successful people are part of the 1%. They're part of that very, very small percentage. That's why I don't want you to do things that everybody's doing. I want you to do the small things that nobody else is doing. The people that are most successful in this business treat it like it's the only thing that's bringing income into their household. If you do that, then you'll have the same results. These people operate like they have no other chance. They have nothing else going. This is the only breadwinner that they have in play. I'm Adam Wingfield, and this is the FreightWaves Playbook. Become part of the 1%. Sign up for FreightWaves Playbook today.
It's like
Welcome back to FreightWaves Today. We are cooking. It is July for the week. This is Independence Week. This is the Super Bowl of freight. And to talk about the Super Bowl of freight and what it means for venture investing, we have our next guest is from AutoTech Ventures. AutoTech Ventures is a $600 million venture capital firm. We have the managing director, Burak Cendek. Burak, welcome to FreightWaves Today.
Hi, great great being here. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, well, look, we've got a lot going on. Venture capital has discovered freight really for the last 12 years. I remember in 2015 was sort of the born-on date of a lot of venture investing. Before that, it was sort of a ghost town of investing. But you guys were invested in the automotive space. It's where you got sort of your heritage. You've now moved in supply chain investing. What was the journey and the decision point to move away, or not away, but diversify away from mobility and automotive specifically into this logistics and supply chain world?
Absolutely, great question. Thank you. So the firm started in 2016, started by Quinn and Alexei. And at that point, the idea was there was a gap between the how the incumbents are approaching. I'm talking about at that point, to your point, automotive manufacturers, how they are approaching technology and how Silicon Valley was approaching manufacturing and automotive industry. And the fund started as a bridge between those two. And I joined the firm in 2019, and I made several logistics supply chain investments in the past before AutoTech Ventures. And it's a natural expansion for the firm because if you think about it, a lot of these automotive manufacturers, think about car manufacturers, think about truck manufacturers, parts manufacturers, they're also large shippers. So they have huge supply chain, very complex supply chain, and they also have very big logistics needs. So we started investing in this space. We made several investments, multiple investments so far. We are investors in Genlogs, which you are familiar with. We are investors in Augment in the agentic AI space. We are investors in ClearNow in the customs clearance space, HDVI in trucking insurance, Basic Block trucking factoring. We were investors in Neutral that got acquired by Highway. Also Truck Labs, the maker of the truck wings that got acquired by ConMed. We are investors in ShipHug, that is in the parcel, TMS, WMS space, Destia, Retailer, and many more. So at this point, we are very active in logistics supply chain space. I lead many of our investments in this space, and I just love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a heck of a roster of companies. I mean, many of those have been very active. Genlog's raised quite a bit of capital just recently. You guys were in the early stage. You invest in seed all the way through B, Series B, which gives you a pretty broad perspective of earliest stage, perhaps even pre-revenue, all the way into companies that are going to that next stage of maturity. When you think about logistics technology and logistics and supply chain investing, where is the biggest opportunities? It does feel like this early stage investing to that B is really where you get the biggest lift and where a lot of activity happens. We haven't seen a lot of Series B and beyond activity happen.
No, another good question. So when we look at this space right now, to your point, like logistics and supply chain didn't get much attention before COVID. But with COVID, with all the supply chain problems, we started to get a lot of attention from generalist VCs. And then that peaked during those years, as you remember, with all the problems. And the technology was seen as a solution to these problems. And that attracted a lot of capital to the space. And then that kind of fizzled out, but we stay. We used to call, a lot of that attention is tourists in the space. They kind of left, it fizzled. And then with the new AI, it's picking up again. It's interesting though, a couple of things there. One is with AI, it's also very, very easy to create anything and everything. So if you have an idea, you can have an MVP, a starting point of your product up and running very fast. And with that, we are seeing the number of startups in the space skyrocketing. And that's exciting, and especially from a customer point of view, like a lot of these solutions, especially the agentic AI solutions, have a clear ROI. And of course, like it has its challenges. I'm not saying that like these solutions are perfect yet, but they are solving real problems and there's a clear ROI. But on the other hand, it's very crowded. There are a lot of copycats. So as an investor, you got to be really careful about who you pick, what you invest in. If something you're investing in doesn't have a competitor today, I can guarantee you in 6 months, you're going to have tens of competitors.
Well, it's funny you said tourist because I've used the same term. I chuckled because it's exactly what I described, the tigers of the world that got in when things were hot and then pulled out. And they inflated a lot of the valuations. I mean, we got some really big valuations out of it for companies that are frankly trying to absorb those valuations, trying to grow into them. What happens to a company that gets a high valuation? One of our investors, Chris Stallman, I believe you know from Fontanellis, told me very early on when he invested in FreightWaves, he's like, look, these really big investors, the household names, your Sequoias, your Kleiners, your sort of tier one VCs that most people think about are great until they're not. And the issue with a lot of the tourist investors is they inflate the value of companies. If you go in for a second round, if you don't hit these really sexy multiples and you're not a breakout company, they're on to the next one. What is your message for those founders that have taken money at really high valuation for some of the tourists and are sort of covered up on that?
Great question. So there are a couple of layers to this. A lot of the funds nowadays, like they're raising more and more and they're becoming multi-stage. So they're investing from pre-seed, seed, Series A, B, C, and so on. And for a lot of these funds, the early stage investment is just a call option. So they are investing in multiple companies. And sure, some of them are supporting them and they're at least branding some branding and they have the support mechanism, but it's a call option in most of the cases. And if that company is not doing well, and the idea is like they do that because they want to deploy more and more money out of their billions of dollar funds. They need to deploy tens, hundreds of $millions into their future runs. So they're looking for those opportunities. And if the company is not doing well, then yes, they're not going to invest. And then that has the other problem of signaling problem. So if a top fund invested in your company early on and then didn't do their pro rata and then follow-on investment, what does that tell to the other investors? So it's really challenging. The valuations is a different problem, though. I think for us, of course, like it makes our life a little difficult because if you don't catch a good company, a breakout company early on, it's oftentimes like too late to get in. It's just the math doesn't make sense anymore. So we are also moving more and more upstream, trying to catch companies at the very early idea stage. But from a founder point of view, to be honest, like it's good in the sense that, yeah, of course, like if you are raising X million dollars and one option is giving you 10% dilution, and then the other option is giving you 20% dilution, yeah, go with the 10% dilution. I think I'm a little contrarian in the sense for that from a founder point of view. Yeah, it's bad to raise at a very high valuation. You need to grow into that, and it's creating a lot of pressure. But I would take less dilution any day if I was a founder.
Well, I think that's fair, but the issue also is you end up in no man's land. I think talking to a lot of founders, and I talk to founders of all shapes and sizes of companies, successful ones, some that haven't been successful. And look, as a founder, we've had periods where we haven't been so hot. We had periods where we're super hot, we're white hot. And there's periods where we're not, particularly this freight market is as volatile as it is. The worst thing you can be is an unimportant company. Now, as a founder, sometimes that's good. Your investors aren't bothering you very much. But if you need a decision, if you need an action, when you're not loved, it's really hard. How do you convince founders in terms of whom they should take money from is the most important thing and oftentimes outweighs how much money they should take?
Yeah. So in our case, so we are a sector-specific fund. So we only invest in ground transportation. So that includes supply chain, that includes trucking, and that's all we do. And because of that, many of our LPs, limited partners who give us their money, are top global ground transportation corporations. So these are large shippers, as I mentioned, car manufacturers, truck manufacturers, and logistics companies, 3PLs, brokers, carriers, and so on. And that's the value we bring in. And then the high net worth individuals that made their money in logistics, ground transportation, serial entrepreneurs. And that's the value we bring in. So we are able to make customer introductions, business partner introductions, vendor introductions. That's one element. I think that is huge. And then we do that, and we demonstrate that early on in a relationship with a founder. Like, we are not just talking up and like, oh yeah, we can make a lot of introductions and then don't do anything. Like, early on, even before we make an investment, we are more than happy to introduce founders to our LP base and our extended network. So that's one thing. The other thing is talent. Of course, we have a very dedicated, specific talent pool that is specific to ground transportation. And I always joke like, hey, you're not going to get a pharma sales rep from our talent pool. It's going to be very focused to what you are doing. And then fundraising, like oftentimes, since we are a sector-specific fund, generalist VC sees us as the subject matter expert. So when they see us on the cap table for the future rounds, that's a huge plus for the founders.
Burak, I want to talk about the piece that you just mentioned, talent. Walk me through the next generation and iteration of what talent looks like when it comes to founders and how to necessarily stick out, because you just mentioned the AI component has kind of bolstered competition, but it kind of seems like everybody's the same cookie cutter type, no?
No, yeah, great question. I mean, of course, like early stage investment, the key thing is talent. We are evaluating the founder more than anything else. And there, I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, we are looking for people who are very driven. We are looking for people who has a really good understanding of the customer's problems, and they are on this journey of figuring it out. Like, okay, there's this problem, and this is my solution. And you need to run real fast and iterate real fast. And AI enables that. Like, with AI, you can iterate and build your product real fast and figure out like what is the exact solution that meets the needs of this customer segment for this pain point. So we are looking for founders who are very driven, who are running fast, run through the wall type of characters, and who are also very charismatic. So at the end of the day, you are always trying to attract investors, customers, and talent. So when we are talking with founders, we are trying to assess that, like, if I was going to be one of the founding team members, would I want to work with this person? If I was a customer, would I want to buy this product as a design partner? Like, when there's nothing, like, would I trust this person to use their product? So those are some of the elements that we are evaluating early on.
Yeah, it's almost like you got to make believe. I mean, like founders, I've been a founder, I've raised money, and I've invested. In fact, some of the companies that you guys are invested in, our cap tables are quite similar. Start reading them off, and I'm like, I put some money in that.
Oh, good taste, you know?
Yeah, it's a good, these are all good companies. But one of my rules of thumb, and I say this to every founder, and I think it's true, is that the most successful freight tech, I'm talking specific freight tech, I think when you go to broader e-commerce, they don't have to have industry experience. We're talking freight tech,
for sure,
particularly when you're dealing with trucking. You got to have personal hands-on experience. And my rule, Malcolm, is that they must have worked in this industry for a couple of years or have a co-founder that has. And the first thing I say when there's a technical founder that reaches out to me is like, look, the industry is very hard to understand.
It is.
They oftentimes have naive understandings of how it works. And they're like, oh, I'm, no discredit to them, but I'm so smart, I'll go figure this out. You guys are all dumb. And that is initially the first conversation I have is like, look, it doesn't work the way you think it does.
It doesn't.
My advice is always that they need a industry co-founder. And look, if you look the list of companies that you guys invested in, that is consistent. And every single unicorn, every single high momentum company that's in trucking specifically has had a founder. And you can go through the list. I mean, Dan Lewis from Convoy was always my only sort of exception to it. We know what happened to Convoy. Rest in peace, Convoy.
You're not wrong.
Dan's a good dude, but unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I'll give you an example. So we are investors in Basic Block. Taylor, I'm not sure if you met him. He's like
I was a seed investor in Basic Block.
So he hitchhiked with truck drivers for 6 months, going from truck stop to truck stop to truck stop, and lived the life of truck drivers to understand what type of day-to-day pain points that they are going through. So that's a clear example. Like if you compare that type of a profile with someone from San Francisco, like we are here, so I can say that, who has never been into a tractor. This first profile is definitely going to win.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can look at Convoy's roster. I mean, it was the dream team.
Oh, talent galore.
Not even the talent. I'm talking about the investor pool.
Yes.
Like if you were to pull the ultimate, roster of investors and board members, there was not a company that had a better roster than Convoy.
Yeah.
So it was certainly set up for success, and that served them well to raise capital and get a high valuation. It did not, unfortunately, once they learned the reality of trucking and how cyclical and nasty this industry can be to you, they learned that it wasn't the kind of business that they wanted to be invested in. There's much sexier, cooler businesses to put money behind.
How do you replicate that and what they did from that?
You mean from an investor base?
Yes.
I think it's a once in a generation founder in Dan Lewis, and Grant Goodall had the right recipe. Unfortunately, for them, as they were learning, this is a period, I think in 2015, 2016 was when they were first getting started. It's a period when there was a lot of tourists that got into our industry, as Burak says, that did not study the industry. And their investors were not long-term seasoned venture investors that understood. They were very seasoned venture investors. They were not seasoned industry professionals. And unfortunately, their board did not consist of trucking professionals. And so when the cycle hit, and it violently hit them the way all of our cycles did, it took them down. And I think the board investors were like, hey, doc, this isn't what we signed up for.
At all.
Like, this is a brutal, brutal commodity of a business. And they found there were better ways and better distractions to go out and invest.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Burak, I got to ask, my son wants to be a venture capitalist, and he's a 19-year-old kid. He's now going to be a sophomore at Baylor University, and I don't know why. I've tried to talk him some sense into him, but he is convinced he wants to be a venture capitalist. What advice would you give my 19-year-old son about getting into venture capital? What does it take to become a VC?
I mean, I don't blame him. It's one of the best jobs I think you can have. You are always constantly talking with smartest people in the world who are building new products and services. So it's very exciting and it's very intellectually stimulating job. So it's a great job. I love it. For anybody who wants to get into this business, you got to be passionate about startups. So it cannot be just about being a venture capitalist. It has to be about founders. It has to be about startups. So do you actually you need to ask yourself, do you enjoy following startups? Do you enjoy reading about startup news stories, founding stories, and how passionate are you? Even before being a venture capitalist, you should be spending time with the founders, with the startups, and get some experience. So that's one path. Go and work at some early stage funded, I would recommend a funded Series A stage company, get some experience and see how it is to be inside a startup and to see how chaotic things are and how many ups and downs you live, but experience that. That's one thing. The second thing is you can always there are more analyst level, very junior level jobs at venture capital funds, and you can apply to those. You can get onto those and then gain experience. And then get promoted all the way to the top. And in between, what I see is also they start, junior folks, they can start as an analyst, become an associate, go maybe get an MBA, or go get an operating role, and then come back to venture capital. So I think my first advice would be make sure that you're passionate about startups, you're passionate about founders, and ask yourself, apart from being a VC, is this something that you truly enjoy doing?
Well, I told him, I was like, look, you got to be an expert at something. You got to bring something to the table. There's a lot of kids out there that want those jobs because there's a finite number of really high quality jobs in venture capital, high quality firms. It's the amount of firms that you would want to work in. I said, you need to focus on an industry and supply chain, of course. I'm a little biased. That's where he should do. I was like, you got all the advantages.
You do got all the
advantages.
When I go to college and talk to them about guidance, I'm like, the two rules, you know this, you're a recruiter.
Yes, sir.
It's who you know and what you can bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have anything special, you're a commodity. I got to ask before we go, because this is the most important question on the minds of people that are listening to this show. Is AI hype or not? Hot or not? Well, it's hot, but is it hype or is it real?
It is real, but it has its challenges. Of course, it is real. I'm a full believer. I mean, I look at my own work, my day-to-day job has changed so much with AI in the last 2 years. So we are leveraging AI heavily within our firm. We are automating a lot of things that we used to do manually. So I believe that it is here to stay. But yes, there is some hiccups. There has been some hiccups. So we got to be careful about how especially shippers, brokers, carriers, how they are implementing AI. But I think it is here to stay, and we are very bullish on it.
Yeah, look, I think obviously it's a huge opportunity, but there's been so many of these wrapper companies that have built layers on top of it. It's hard to know. Every company's an AI company. Almost every pitch. By the way, how do you vet? Is this truly an AI company? That's the hardest. I don't know how you do it.
Great. Now, so for us, 100%. As I mentioned, even if a company doesn't have a competitor today, in 6 months they will have. So you need to assume that software is a commodity, and you need to assume that there is going to be competition. So in a world like that, what do you do? Of course, you need to bet on the best teams. That's a given. But on top of that, we are very careful about trying to understand what are the modes, defensibility, whatever you want to call it, of that company is. And oftentimes in the world of AI, some very remaining modes, I think, are network effects. Can you build network effects with this solution? And distribution advantage. Do you have distribution advantage when you're selling to your customers that others don't have? IP is very, very limited, except maybe in the case of Genlox, for example. It's very, very, very difficult to replicate what they have built with their sensor network. So that's a true mode that they built over the years. And then lastly, any maybe compounding data element that you have, and then it will compound over time that others don't have. Otherwise, just like, oh yeah, I have this automation, I have this workflow automation, I have this agentic AI for XYZ. That in itself is definitely not enough in today's world.
Burak, we got to have you back. I got a lot to ask. I have a whole series of questions to ask you next time you come back.
Anytime.
And stay with us right here at FreightWaves today. We're going to talk about energy. It is life. It is business. And it's the most important thing happening in the world is energy. And we'll hear right from Michael Farkas. He is the founder and CEO of Next NRG.
Race car drivers like NASCAR champion Jesse Love are a lot like commercial drivers, pros. But even the best in the world still watch the tape to see what they missed and get better next time. So we created the Samsara driving coach.
Great race, Jesse, but you were following too closely and you were speeding.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Samsara uses insights from millions of professional drivers to coach drivers in real time.
Because even champions need a coach.
Give me the keys.
What's the masterclass all about? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're a driver, you're an owner-operator, you're a fleet owner, whether you're in compliance services, dispatcher, no matter what it is, masterclass is for you. Every 2 weeks, you're going to sit down with me, and we're going to go over certain business topics that are related specifically to your small trucking company operations. We're going to help you with everything from compliance to how to negotiate better on the spot board, how to find direct freight, and everything in between. This is the reason why you don't want to miss out on Masterclass. It's about an hour to an hour and a half, and then on top of that, you'll have the library to you so that way you can always research and reflect back onto it. Don't miss out this opportunity. This is built specifically for you. I'm excited, and I hope to see you in class.
Imagine a world where your freight moves as fast as a digital pulse. What if your visibility didn't just tell you where a truck was, but exactly where it needed to be 48 hours from now? Think of a logistics network that corrects its own mistakes before they cost you a single dime. What if your supply chain could think for itself? Imagine AI agents negotiating rates in milliseconds, predictive models that solve labor shortages before they even happen. This isn't science fiction, it's the agenda. On July 15th at the historic Old Post Office in Chicago, FreightWaves presents the Supply Chain AI Symposium. We are defining in real time how AI is embedded into every mile, every warehouse, and every handshake. Because in 2026, the future isn't just coming, it's already negotiating. The FreightWaves Supply Chain AI Symposium. Secure your spot now.
Yeah.
Welcome back to FreightWaves today, and man, we are cooking with some propane, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about remote fueling. I got to ask, Michael, do you guys do propane since we're talking about propane?
No.
So you're all over the road. So you're the largest remote fleet fuel company that's out there. Tell us a little bit of what you're seeing right now. A lot of conversation about the Middle East. What exactly are you guys seeing right now as it relates to fuel?
Obviously, a tremendous amount of volatility in oil prices and fuel prices. And hopefully, as this war winds down and we have less, volleying of missiles and armaments, prices will come down and will be a little bit more stable than they've been as of late.
What is the biggest concern customers have? Is it just the price of fuel? Have they been worried about getting access to fuel and the potential of supply chain disruptions?
Not at this point in time. We're not as concerned about that here in the States. We have access to fuel. It's not really the problem. It's more about pricing. But what we're seeing is a lot of fleet operators that really want to convert to EV. They're seeing the different opportunities now, especially small fleet operators in California, where you could potentially buy a Tesla Semi for about $50,000, taking into consideration all of these subsidies. We're seeing a lot of these fleet operators that really are looking at alleviating all these issues that they're having with fuel and the price of fuel by converting their fleets to electricity. The biggest problem and obstacle to that is obviously getting the power necessary at these fleet facilities in order to power those vehicles once they're able to receive them.
Now, some of the concerns about is not only the infrastructure, as you said, getting power to these, but also the sort of use case for the electric semi, the range, the fact that these things have to be charged. How are you helping companies deal with that, navigate that?
That's exactly what we do. We don't only deal with fossil fuels through our Easy Fill division, but really what we're trying to do is help these fleet operators by being able to provide the power necessary at their locations so that they could fuel their vehicles on their own. And that's by providing smart microgrid deployments at their facilities, including typically solar panels, without a question, energy storage. Sometimes we need gas turbines, generators, and so on. But it's really about providing a solution that allows for the fuel to be available for them at their location. What we do at Easy Fill now through our Easy Fill division is instead of fleet operators having to go send their drivers out on their routes without fuel, what we do is we provide the fueling while those vehicles have downtime. So we're a natural provider of those services. And since we're already in communication with most of the sustainability groups and the fleet operators, we believe that we have an amazing solution for these fleet operators in helping them convert ultimately to EV when the vehicles are available.
Now, Michael, first off, thank you so much for being here. Really excited to jump into this with you. Now, I noticed, obviously with the World Cup and things happening, there was 50,000, things of gallons of fuel that were headed to Miami. Walk us through, what does that entail?
It's not for vehicles. That was really more for generators so that these facilities can have power. You have very, very large amounts of people that are in these facilities, and there's just not enough power for them. So they're needing to run these locations not by their grid-based power and provided power, but by having ancillary generation. And what we're doing is filling up those generators, filling up those turbines with the fuel that's necessary to power those locations with a proper amount of electricity.
It's for the air conditioning, isn't it?
I need that. We need that.
It's all AC. Let's admit it. We got to have AC. These poor Europeans.
It's
right
definitely
now.
It is hot down here. It's southern Florida in the middle of the summer. It is a bit warm. So yes, you are seeing some of these generators powering those ACs.
Have you
but
seen
again, it's a matter of having fuel.
Have you seen? Well, I mean, look, it's energy is life. But have you seen the hate on X about, or not the hate, but all the
commentary,
European conversations?
Yeah.
Like, welcome to America where we live in excess. But you know, energy is life. It is such an important commodity, and really, entire societies will not grow. Will not grow without it. And in fact, as we've seen in places like Europe, where they have decommissioned a lot of their energy, they're paying the price, not only with high heat bills, but people die. 1,000 people, did you see this?
Correct.
No, I literally saw on X.
It's absolutely insane that is even permitted in a modern society. You have been investing in two sides of energy, traditional energy, like you see with fuel for generators, but also on the more carbon-friendly energy sources. How are you helping companies build a portfolio that really can help them withstand all energy shocks?
We believe there needs to be balance. And what happened is you had certain legislation globally that was really pushing away from fossil fuels and more towards electric mobility and electricity handling most of our human functionality. Look at what's been going on over the last few years. We're seeing everything become electrified, not just mobility. Food preparation. You remember there was all this aggravation going around globally about moving from gas-powered stoves and ovens towards electrification. We're also seeing that from bodily heating and air conditioning, moving away towards, again, fossil fuels, more towards heat pumps. All of these things are requiring electricity. Then add into that AI, as you guys were talking about before, machine learning, quantum computing. There's just not enough power to go around. But ultimately, using electricity is a lot more efficient. You know, we work with a lot of different fleet operators. Amazon is our largest customer. We supply many vehicles, Amazon vehicles, with their fuel in order for them to go make their deliveries. But without a question, those processes could be done a lot more efficiently. You know, we're in touch with a lot of different fleet operators, and the data that we're getting back from them is mind-blowing. We have one operator that's both Canadian and US. They've got about 500 different trucks. They have about 5 different pilots of the Tesla Semi. And you know, you guys know more so than anyone, you know, driving a Tesla Semi versus driving your typical 18-wheeler, it's a much easier process driving a Tesla Semi than it is having to go through all those gears all day long as you're driving. So it's a lot less taxing on the driver, and we've heard that. We've actually heard from these operators that sometimes, you know, they're almost getting to the point of physical interaction over who's going to be driving the Tesla Semi versus the others. In addition, and that's a good benefit for the driver, but the driver's not necessarily the one who makes a decision on which vehicles to purchase. But when you're looking at the cost of operating the vehicles using a electric Semi versus an internal combustion engine powered Semi, you're roughly talking about 15 to 20 cents on the dollar, you know, for fuel costs. You cannot be competitive, especially the way this, you know, fueling and transportation work out, where you're really your payments are based upon, and your cost is based upon weight and distance. You know, if it costs you 20 cents for fuel to travel that same distance using electricity versus using gasoline, how can anyone be competitive in the long term? In addition, when you talk about from a maintenance perspective, EVs require a lot less maintenance than internal combustion engine powered vehicles. And that's not only passenger vehicles, that's long haul, heavy duty trucks, and everything in between. Every single second that vehicle is in maintenance and not on the road costs fleet operators a decent amount of capital. So when you add all of those things together, there's no question about it. Non-electric transportation companies in the very short term will be unable to compete solely from a financial perspective. And obviously the world we live in, you know, we live in a materialistic world. If you can't compete financially, you're not going to be able to compete. But the only problem for these fleet operators and ultimately updating their fleets to EVs is about not getting the vehicles, because you can buy them today. They're available by a few manufacturers. But the biggest issue is actually being able to power them. There's not enough public infrastructure available for these trucks to go on their routes and then fuel. In addition, these fleet facilities, the fleet depots, have nowhere near the amount of power that's necessary to fill up these vehicles. And that's exactly what we do. So we could hold your hand through the entire process at Next Energy. Through our Easy Fill division, we could fuel your current vehicles. We could add the proper smart microgrid infrastructure into your locations, whether it's solar panels, generators, batteries, or whatever it may be, in order to be able to fuel those vehicles of the future. So we have a solution today, and then we hold your hand through that solution of tomorrow. And there's no other company out there today that really has all of those capabilities internally that could really make the process a lot easier for these fleet operators.
Now, Michael, when the Tesla Semi came out, I believe it's 2017, when Elon Musk revealed it, there was a lot of pushback. Even fleets that tested it, it wasn't prime ready, it wasn't ready for real time. But look, if you've studied Elon Musk, never underestimate that they will get it right. And that's the feedback I've gotten. Look, I was a resident cynic about whether the Tesla Semi would be market ready. The feedback we're getting from fleets today is that it is significantly improved as a product. Drivers love them. There was some initial concern about the driver in the middle of the cab. How comfortable would they be? But the feedback has actually been pretty tremendous. And these things have been far more reliable and dependable than a lot of the other electric products that are on the market. What is the feedback that you're hearing?
I am hearing that there's sometimes physical interactions between these drivers as to who's going to be able to drive the semis, the Tesla semis. I'm talking physical. There's it's a much easier vehicle to drive. And actually what I'm hearing about the driving position is that the driving position of the Tesla Semi is actually preferred. But remember, Tesla's not the only ones with these vehicles. Look at what Volvo's doing. Look at what Mercedes is doing. Volvo's, I think, already sold over 5,000 vehicles, EVs. So the reception is pretty, it's being well received. Again, the biggest problem, the biggest obstacle is really about fueling. And that's exactly what we're solving. Not only are we assisting in deploying charging infrastructure and energy generation solutions at the fleet lot, we're also working with others in order to be able to deploy both wired and wireless charging for these vehicles so that while they're literally in motion, while they're driving down the highway, they're going to be able to wirelessly fuel their EVs. Again, it's not just for passenger vehicles, but it's also for semis as well.
I've got an idea, Malcolm.
Come on.
Let's do FreightWaves Fight Club, and let's have the grand prize be the Tesla Semi. You get to drive it if you win. What do you think?
I am with it.
Is anyone,
Let's go.
write us, tell us if you like it. You can reach out on X, Freight Alley. I think Elon Musk may like this.
I think he would absolutely eat this up. Period.
Look, it's an invite.
I'm in.
Fight Club.
If the White House can host a big fight for America 250, FreightWaves can host a fight for the Tesla Semi.
Easy.
It would be amazing. There's a lot of drivers.
I don't know if I'll get in the ring, but we'll definitely be a sponsor.
I'm going to hold you to that. We're gonna do this. The FreightWaves Fight Club. You get to drive the Tesla Semi. I'm sure there's a fleet that would love to sponsor that.
Oh, there is absolutely a fleet.
Like it would be amazing. We could have
sure.
We're gonna have the Octagon. We can do the Tesla Semi in the background. We can make that the prize. I'm going to reach out to some fleet executives. If you're a fleet executive and you want to take us up on an offer, Next Energy, we've got a sponsor. So let's do it.
I'm in. I
Are you
think,
going to
I
do
think
that?
we're
Are
going
you
to
going to be the Joe Rogan?
I'm so ready to be Joe Rogan. I know my role and I'm going to play it well. I'm ready to go.
Oh, this is going to be amazing.
Wait. Neither of you guys are getting in the ring? I thought you guys are getting in the ring.
No, I'm not in the ring. I will get my. You know what? I got 5 kids.
Listen,
I am not a fighter. I'm a lover.
I'm Sam. My mom, she's like, this face.
Yeah, I think we do all right in the ring. I think much better than I was.
I do okay.
I think Malcolm. I think you kick some butt in the ring.
I think you would too. I definitely would not want to fight him. He's much bigger, much beefier than I am, and I just don't think I can.
I'm with you.
But I'm happy to sponsor it. I'm happy to put this on. We'll broadcast it. The grand prize will be the Tesla Semi. I've got a fleet in mind, by the way, who's taken delivery of some of these Tesla Semis.
Yeah.
It might be up their alley.
This is sick.
Think about this. We could do a whole show.
You never know.
Could do it right at the. We'll do it in the footsteps of the. Where would we put it?
I mean,
FMC, right in front of the FMCSA?
I was going to say, just right.
Donald Trump, America 250, right there. This fits it. Well, we'll have to.
And by the way, if you look at these incentives, especially in California, you could buy a Tesla Semi for about $50,000 with all the different federal and state incentives. When you're looking at that price point, there's no way to be competitive with an internal combustion engine, truck. The Tesla Semi at that price will blow away anything. Now, obviously, there's only a certain amount of vehicles that you'll be able to get those incentives for, but that should put a decent amount of Tesla Semis in the California market that'll be very, very impactful.
Now, Michael, question on that. Do you have to run them in California in order to get those incentives in California, or can they be for over the road long haul?
I mean, ultimately, I think you could travel throughout the country, but I think you have to be domiciled in California as a California small business. And then you could receive all of those benefits. There's, again, a federal benefit and there's a state benefit. When you add them together, from what I read recently, you could really get the price of this Semi down to about $50,000, which, again, is off the charts when you think about comparing it to, what it costs for an internal combustion engine counterpart.
Well, I was hoping it could be my daily driver, and it's not going to work. I don't live in California.
I have to tell you
No
something.
plans to relocate there.
It's not that difficult to drive. It's a great driver from what all the drivers are saying. And from a maintenance perspective, very low cost, and fueling is definitely, considerably lower than what it would cost you to fuel using, fossil fuels.
So, Michael, how do you guys get the energy? How do you get the power? If the grid is not supporting that, how are you guys addressing this problem?
Typically, a lot of these fleet lots have a lot of surface area. And what we do is we put in solar panels. We also use battery storage, energy storage, What we're able to do is take the energy off the grid at lower prices during off-peak hours, and then fill up those vehicles during times where it's a little bit more expensive. Also, by using the technology we have, we're able to alleviate what's called demand charges and time of day charges, which really allow for a more efficient fueling of electric vehicles. It's about having an ecosystem, creating an entire ecosystem that really deals with all the different aspects. It's not just one solution, it's putting all of the things that we have together. We have amazing patented technology. It was really focused on energy generation, but we realized that those who need the energy generation as much as possible right now are those who are operating fleets. There's a really, really big difference in the cost of operating a fleet using electricity versus using an internal combustion engine and gasoline. And we see the volatility of gasoline prices. It's very difficult to operate a business, especially when you're running a small business, when you have prices that could be up 100% just on the whim of some, foreign leader and their actions. So I think the direction that we need to take is something where we can control our futures a bit more and understand exactly what our costs for running our business. And in the transportation space, that is fuel. And without transportation, we could forget about having anything. Everything that we deal with, no matter where we are in the world today, is all predicated on transportation, the transporting of those goods that we need, whether it's food, clothing, and everything in between.
Well, Michael, really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back. Two of my favorite subjects, supply chain and energy. It doesn't get better than that. We'll have you back. FreightWaves Fight Club.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Thank you. You got it.
My next interview.
I'm in.
Let's do it. Coming up next, we got Hey Bubba. Stay with us.
In today's freight environment, every second of uptime matters. Of course, maintenance is inevitable, but large fleets cannot succeed on reactive fixes alone. That's why Love's Truck Care delivers smarter preventative maintenance. Love's understands that operational pressures demand a nationwide service network for better visibility, actionable intelligence, and consistent execution, all of which you protect your assets, reduce your total cost of ownership, and maximize your uptime. Maintenance is, of course, inevitable, but large fleets cannot succeed on reactive fixes alone. That's why Love's Truck Care delivers smarter preventative maintenance. Learn more.
Race car drivers like NASCAR champion Jesse Love are a lot like commercial drivers, pros. But even the best in the world still watch the tape to see what they missed and get better next time. So we created the Samsara driving coach.
Great race, Jesse, but you were following too closely and you were speeding.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Samsara uses insights from millions of professional drivers to coach drivers in real time.
Because even champions need a coach.
Give me the keys.
The super successful people are part of the 1%. They're part of that very, very small percentage. That's why I don't want you to do things that everybody's doing. I want you to do the small things that nobody else is doing. The people that are most successful in this business treat it like it's the only thing that's bringing income into their household. If you do that, then you'll have the same results. These people operate like they have no other chance. They have nothing else going. This is the only breadwinner that they have in play. I'm Adam Wingfield, and this is the FreightWaves Playbook. Become part of the 1%. Sign up for FreightWaves Playbook today.
Welcome back to FreightWaves today. Man, we got an idea.
Oh, we have something on our hands.
F3,
yes.
We get an octagon.
Okay.
We do it at F3, and we have 2 drivers, and maybe a couple of them. We got like a tournament thing.
Yeah.
And then the grand prize is you get to drive the Tesla Semi. And I think there are fleets that are looking for this would absolutely do it. We have a sponsor, Next Energy.
Have our sponsor. Perfect timing with F3.
It's
amazing.
amazing.
A lot of
we
people
can
in
do
the
it right
city.
in Chattanooga. What do you think?
Easy.
I think the drivers will be all over it. They get to come and fight, and the winner gets to drive. Now, he doesn't get to take it home.
Yeah.
Gets to drive the Tesla Semi.
I
think fleets will be all over it.
If they got to take it home, I think you would see some real effort.
Oh, I think if you could take it home, I might actually get in the ring for that.
Real effort.
Although I might have to rig that fight. I'm not sure I have it in me to go beat someone's. Anyways, moving on to something really cool is we're going to talk to Hey Bubba. We have the one and only Gabe Ribeiro. He is head of partnerships and marketing at Hey Bubba. What is going on there, Gabe?
What's up, guys? How's it going? I love the Octagon opportunity there. I would love to participate, but just an idea, maybe have like carriers versus brokers instead.
Ooh. Yeah. But what's the price for the brokers? They don't want to drive the Tesla Semi. They don't want to drive at all.
I don't know, maybe some like extra insurance or something like that.
Reliance is coming in. They'll come in.
Reliance
You get one load declared.
Exactly.
$10 million load. I love this. Hey, Bubba, we got 2 sponsors already.
Done.
We've been talking about this for 5 minutes. We've gotten 2 sponsors. I'm holding you to it, Gabe. You're not backing out.
Yeah.
This is
no.
Tennessee allows verbal contracts, and I have it on film.
Yes, this is recorded. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey Bubba we'll have the big ring. We'll have the Next Energy. We'll have the Hey Bubba.
Put the logos on the mat.
Dude, this could be the event of the year.
This could be sick.
Yeah, maybe have somebody dressed up as Hey Bubba like they would at like the Mexican like wrestling. I don't know if that's an opportunity too.
See, last year we had midget wrestling.
This
year we're going all in on the Octagon. I'm making this happen.
Yes. Please.
Things that happen here on FreightWaves today, you can't believe it. We're gonna make this happen. I'm gonna see if we're gonna actually see if people will fight over the Tesla Semi.
I'm pretty sure they would.
I think drivers just want to fight. Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't think you win it, Gabe. You have to drive it. So you've earned yourself a job over the road. But it is the Tesla Semi. So
I'll dispatch it. Yeah. That's fair.
There you go. So Gabe, what is going on? Tell us what is happening right now. A lot in the freight community. This is the fireworks we've called about it. This week being absolutely electric. What are you guys seeing right now on Hey Bubba?
So I can't believe I missed you guys. I was at the Samsara Beyond conference in Vegas as well. I came by and took a couple pictures while you guys were live. But a lot's happening. I mean, everybody's focusing, it seems like historically on like the brokerages, 3PLs and shippers. We started about 2 years ago and launched the product 10 months ago. And we've had about 2,600 carriers sign up with us. And really like our focus was to help those that don't have a lot of technology resources. So mostly like small fleets. And since launching, we've had a lot of like larger carriers come up to us and be like, hey, our CEO wants us to use AI. How do we do it? So I think right now with carriers, there are some that are a little bit more obviously tech savvy, have their own TMSs, they have their own technology, and they're starting to implement a lot of that. But we're still seeing like, I think the mid-tier folks that don't know where to start. So we're here kind of to help like provide an AI brain, I guess, on top of everything that they use and really help provide automation and workflows in their day-to-day operations. Because right now what you see is like technology is so siloed. And when something happens and there's like a data update, a human still really needs to like intervene and do something about it. So we're here to kind of close those gaps.
So Gabe, when I think about Hey Bubba, you talked about it being an AI platform. This industry's got a lot of different technology. You have load boards in sort of one sort of section of the industry. You have TMSs in another section of the industry. You have fuel cards. Where do you guys fit? How do you, when you're sort of describing Hey Bubba to an audience person, what is the best way to describe your technology offering?
So it depends on the carrier because small carriers don't really have a TMS. A lot of them just use like an ELD. But basically the way that we describe ourselves is like we sit on top of all that. So we integrate with the load boards, we integrate with the fuel cards, we integrate with factoring. Email is really big for us. We have about 150 different categories that we bucket emails into because that is where like data really kind of, everything that happens in your business goes through an email for the most part. So what we say is like for like anybody that has over 10 trucks, we sit on top of all like your tech stack that you're using and integrate that into one brain.
Now, Gabe, I have a question for you. Was there a specific moment where you were just like, hey, the industry needs this right here, right now? Take us back to that moment.
So I've been working with owner operators and carriers. I mean, I started at Coyote Logistics in 2011. I was a carrier rep drinking 5 to 10 monsters per day and kind of went through the whole like brokerage route. I was at F3 in 2018, just kind of seeing where technology really was starting to build its momentum on the telematics side. So I know you guys know Ryan Schreiber. Ryan Schreiber connected me with Tapa, and who's the founder of Hey Bubba. He owns a company called TruckX. So he was bootstrapping that company and is bootstrapping this company. And the aha moment for me was I was basically like the dispatcher for a lot of like the owner operators that I worked with. And you see that these owner operators work with their wives, their cousins, their nephews. And we call it kind of like a kitchen dispatch setup where there's a lot of friction, in personally that kind of like gets spilled into like the professional sense for owner operators and small fleets. So the aha moment was the first demo for me when I met Tapa, and he kind of showed me that it's all voice based for drivers on the go. And I just talked to an owner operator right before this call, Mr. Dunbar, and he and his wife have been fighting all the time. So I try to say that like we're kind of helping marriages and saving some divorce rates there. Because for me, when I saw the demo at first, I was like, wow, a lot of owner operators could save. They can make more money too, because it's all about timing when it comes to like the spot load boards for them. And if they don't see a load, it kind of disappears. So for me, I've always wanted to provide more resources for owner operators specifically and make their lives easier. And I know, Craig, you're the same in that sense. And I love like the market updates and seeing like where the market's going right now, because it really makes me feel good that these guys are kind of not getting payback in a sense, but they're getting paid what they deserve. So for me, the aha moment was the first demo. And I think a lot of like even Mr. Dunbar like an hour ago was like, wow, let's get set up. I need this done like ASAP.
That's amazing. It's interesting. The whole compliance crackdown is dealing with safety issues, obviously. And look, the administration's paying attention.
Yes.
They're actually looking at, trucking rates as a proxy for the economic viability of this industry, because they know how important it is that truckers are making an honest living, are making a high quality living. And it's so important. It is mission oriented. Like we're at the end of the day, everyone wants the driver, the individual person putting in the work to make more money. And even the large fleets, as much hate as they get, every fleet executive I've talked to would like to see drivers make more money.
For sure.
Now, obviously, they want to make more money too, and they're trying to solve their own issues. But everyone is really trying to champion the driver to make money, and that's the most. I mean, that is what makes this industry great. And drivers need to be rewarded for the work they do. It's hard work.
They do. It is hard work. I think it's the hardest kind of aspect of the industry is
being a driver.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not even close.
Yeah,
it's not even close. And
I agree with you.
Also, Gabe, I will say I obtained a monster addiction from Coyote Logistics as well. So you're not alone.
This is before Zen became.
Yeah, it was a monster. So
yeah.
And then I had to move to San Diego for Coyote to start a new office, and I got away. I did the whole monster cleanse at that point, and kind of went into the matchas, I think, when I was down in SoCal.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, what is Bubba? We got Bubba behind you. What is he? Is he just like, he looks like a potato head, Mr. Potato Head?
Yeah, he's like a Mr. Potato Head, like Lorax. So we used AI to create the mascot to give something that's like more trustworthy. So it gave like a mustache, because at first it was just kind of a Mr. Potato Head. And then we also used AI to come up with a name. And AI basically said that Bubba is a very common nickname in the Southeast region. And when we go to events and conferences, we have people come up to us all the time saying, hey, my grandfather's name is Bubba. I call my son Bubba. I'm Bubba. I need to take a picture with it or get some swag. So that's kind of the backstory of how we created the name. It's all through AI.
Interesting. Well, because we're doing the FreightWaves Fight Club, when this thing is broadcast, Have you seen the Nickelodeon thing, by the way? Where
No, what is
when they
this?
do the NFL and it's like the alternative broadcast?
Yeah.
Nickelodeon?
I've seen
Hey
this.
Bubba's got to be you. You got to turn into Hey Bubba, Malcolm. You'll be the Joe Rogan, but it'll be Hey Bubba. This is totally.
It's like when a football game's happening, it's like the Rugrats theme.
Exactly.
Of,
You're gonna be Hey Bubba impersonation for the FreightWaves Flight Club. There it is. The Tesla Semi is the reward. Who wants to join the Octagon? This is absolutely happening. I love it.
We've got to take Photoshop off, Cody.
That's in front of the
That's not
FMCSA
Photoshop,
building.
that's AI. we are on brand here. Hey Bubba is AI. He's talked about the fact he uses AI.
This is crazy.
And I think we're going to have you become Hey Bubba for the fight.
Yeah, or I'll be like Bruce Buffer. Yeah, I'll just I'll be the announcer.
Well, I think we're going to have this is going to be a thing.
This is it. That has to be
America,
now.
we need to fly over. I'll get some like Cessna 152s, because like we can't have all the fighter jets. I don't know that we could pull that one off.
Yeah.
But look, so much is happening, Gabe. What is the advice you have to small operators right now in this market?
For any carrier, I would say to like what I tell people is to start with your emails. There's so much data in your emails, and there's a lot of tools out there that can help you automate. For me personally, AI saves a lot of time on my email replies. It gives me kind of like a draft, and then I come up with a way to personalize it. That's always the first way. And then connecting whatever like systems you currently use. That's easier said than done, depending on like what provider you currently have. But reach out to us. We're always just happy to give people advice on like what we see other people doing in the market, whether you're a larger carrier or an owner operator. Feel free to reach out to Gabe at bubba.ai or just go to bubba.ai and reach out to us. And I always say email is the first step to get going. And obviously ChatGPT and Claude are helpful as well.
So one of the sort of pushbacks on AI and freight is all the fraud that anyone can look legitimate. That's the issue with a lot of these scams, these Nigerian scams and overseas scams. It's hard to tell if it's a English native speaker and if it's in the US with AI. How are you guys helping companies filter out the fraud?
So you have to connect your email to get started with Hey Bubba. That's like the first thing. It has to be an email that's registered under FMCSA as well. So that's the first step. We read the last 4 months of your emails. So if there's anything fraudulent happening there, we're able to flag it right away. And then we're able to see these documents. And then step 2 is you have to connect a telematics system to Bubba. We don't allow like third-party dispatchers or anybody that doesn't have like a legitimate ELD system to use Hey Bubba. With that, it gives like trust to the brokers that we're calling, but also anybody that interacts with Bubba, they know that it's a legitimate person. We track the assets, the vehicle health, the location, the hours of service there. So that's like, and then the other step is obviously you still have to go through like the onboarding process. If you're not working with the broker, it's still the highways of the world, the RMIS that you have to go through to be able to work with them. But the first 2 steps is just looking at like what's happening in this inbox. Is it actually tied to the FMCSA? And then obviously the ELD, which is like a safeguard to just get started with us.
I love businesses that are helping small dry owner operators do business. And what's nice about technology, and Hey Bubba is a part of this, is that the level playing field, back when I was in freight, 20 some odd years ago, there was a massive gap between the big mega carriers in terms of technology and the very smallest operators. That gap has narrowed. We had a venture capitalist on earlier from AutoTech Ventures. A lot of that has been funded by venture capitals, help narrow that gap, but also technology innovations. It's so much easier today to launch tech and distribute it to the folks that need it most.
For sure, definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and like especially owner operators, we don't have like a go-to-market team. We just hired our first salesperson like 2 or 3 months ago, and he's been in the industry for like 40 or 50 years. So he knows a lot of like enterprise people, but the owner operators, if it works, they tell people. It's all referral based. So that's kind of just the way that we've grown, is by providing value to these owner operators of small fleets, and they'll tell somebody else at a truck stop, and then it kind of just becomes a domino effect. And that's what we're betting on with AI for them. And you're totally right, Craig. It is closing the gap like 100% between large carriers and small carriers.
Well, after the F3 FreightWaves Fight Club, you're not going to need any marketing people because it's going to become such a viral hit that everyone's going to hear about it. Malcolm is going to be Bubba.
Let's go.
You sound kind of like.
And I got the head shape for it too as well. I got the head shape for it as well.
You do. It's a beautiful haircut.
You know, the smartest men in freight are bald. That's what I heard.
Well, it's true. Smartest men in freight are on FreightWaves today and bald. This is a consistent. Gabe, come back. We'll have to have you back to tell us what you're seeing in the market. But we also got to start planning this.
We have a
the
fight
Octagon
club
going.
plan. We need it.
I think this is good. I want to fly over. I think we need like flyovers. Can we get the fighter jets?
I think we have to try.
We can certainly try.
We have to try.
Maybe. I mean, this would be just like, by the way, the White House seeing that, like, it sounded kind of ridiculous when you first heard about it.
Yeah.
But then seeing it out there was pretty cool.
Man, I watched it with some buddies. I was like, this is amazing.
Like, I don't know why you would hate on America.
Full send, I'm in.
Like, I realize that it's sort of this distinguished house thing, but still, I thought it was cool. It's Americana.
I thought it was dope. That's just me.
Our audience loves it. Well, Gabe, appreciate your time. We'll be back tomorrow. We got another great lineup tomorrow with Trimble Transportation Logistics Chief Platform Officer Jonah McIntyre.
Nice.
We're going to talk oil with John Kingston. He always has the oil with the EIA. The DOE index comes out. We're going to hear about fuel surcharge, what we're seeing in wholesale. Really an important conversation because the price of, we're down to $70 a barrel.
Saw that.
On WTI. We're at 115. John Kingston's going to tell us his thoughts on the oil market. A little bit of skirmish going on. Speaking of fighting, in Iran, the United States had a little bit of fighting.
Saw that over the weekend as well.
They made up, or at least decided to put down the arms. We appreciate that. Oil, we want it to drop. And then we got David Spencer. He is the VP of Market Intelligence at Arrive Logistics, one of the largest freight brokers in the market. Will tell us what he's seeing. David's always a fantastic resource.
He is awesome.
He studies the market. He knows what's happening. He's going to give us his account of the freight market as we head into the second half. Diesel, oil, freight, it's all here on FreightWaves today. And then on Wednesday, my favorite day of the week, is the American Association of Railroad report. You know why I like the AAR report that's on Wednesday?
Why is that, Craig?
Because it tells us a lot about the demand side in the industrial economy. Because we hear so much about trucking, and there's always this conversation about the trucking market, and there's always a question about how much is demand-driven versus supply-driven.
Right.
The nice thing about the railroad report, particularly, and I'm not talking intermodal, although that's doing exceptionally well. Yes. I'm talking specifically on the bulk commodities. Okay. It's the stuff that goes into manufacturing. Okay. It's the stuff that drives steel, like Coke. Mm-hmm. Those types of things need a lot of it to heat up. We're not talking about stuff you drink. We're talking about the stuff that burns to create steel. It tells us a lot about sort of the state of the industrial economy. And I think that's the most important day of the week from just keeping a pulse on the demand side.
I love how you looked at that because, I
love it. I love Wednesdays. Wednesday at the AAR report, it's always one of my favorite things. Because, again, it's a gut check. We see the data every single day inside of Sonar.
Right.
And it tells us a lot about the trucking market. And it tells us a lot about demand. But the industrials are typically, it's hard to sparse the demand side in trucking to understand all of the industrial activity. And the railroads tell us, sort of keep us honest.
They paint a picture and tell us that
story.
They do.
They tell us a picture of data that we don't typically see in the trucking data because the trucking industry isn't hauling the types of commodities that the railroad haul over long distances. And so that rail data is really important. That's every single Wednesday.
Never thought about it that way. So I'm excited for Wednesday now for sure.
Wednesday at noon, we always got it. We got the rail. We will break it down. Tomorrow we'll break down EIA's DOE report because that is the Tuesday data point.
Nice.
What I love what we have built inside of FreightWaves today is every single week we're keeping the conversation going and we're maintaining the cadence of these big data points so that when they happen, you can know how it impacts your business and your life.
And the data always matches the story, and you can go get those stories again on FreightWaves.com. You saw the new updated screen that you can see and go back and see.
We're on top of the screen. FreightWaves today.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
FreightWaves today. We've got new commercials too. We have these new commercial with F3 Fight Club. That's going to be playing on a regular basis. We're making this happen.
I mean, we're making this happen. I think we got a fight to plan.
Like, look at these guys. Look at these guys.
Is that me on the right?
Do you think we have truck drivers that will actually show up? I think they will.
I think folks will be ready to go.
The Tesla semi. Look, we got helicopters. We got fireworks. Oh, this is amazing. I absolutely love this. This is going to be the most fun F3 in history. By the way, if you haven't got your F3 tickets, you should get them. They're on sale.
What are you waiting on?
It's in October. We now have the FreightWaves Fight Club, sponsored by Next Energy, and hey, Bubba is going to be the broadcast partner.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about being a purple monster?
Listen, I'm a monster in general. Might as well be purple.
There you go. He's sort of blue, though, isn't he?
It is a purplish blue.
Is it
I will say.
purplish blue?
I'm gonna have to. I don't know. We'll figure this thing out, but it's happening. I know that.
It is happening. We'll see you tomorrow at FreightWaves Today, noon to 2.